What's up, guys? Yannick Reed here, and welcome to a One Par Podcast, a podcast where we talk about creativity, culture, technology, and lifestyle, and a little bit of stuff in between. As I mentioned before, I'm your host, Yannick Reed, and we're going to jump right into the podcast. I want to be very honest about this episode, as I always am. This episode is coming about because I was actually working on what would have been episode 9, but I really realized that I wasn't going to finish it in a timely manner at all. I'm already late with even this replacement episode. And it's a guest episode. I won't spoil who the guest is, but it's a really good, solid conversation. And what I would have to do to get it ready is going to take a little bit more time, as it's also going to be a longer than average episode. So instead of trying to add more stress to my rising stress levels, I decided that I actually do have a conversation I'd love to have with you guys, because the name of this podcast is a One Par Podcast, and it is primarily about us hanging out as individuals. I thought it would be fine if I chat with you guys, and then that would give me some more time to polish our next guest episode. So we'll be super on time for that one. So that's just me being transparent about just the creative process overall and the creative process that goes behind self-producing this podcast. So we're going to dive into the actual topic today. So at the time of recording this podcast, Cabo Verde was just kicked out of the World Cup. Cabo Verde is a country off the coast of Senegal, an African country. It's a group of islands with just a little over 500,000 people. And stay with me, this isn't going to be a podcast about football. You'll see. They speak Portuguese and Creole, and this is their first time ever to the World Cup since joining FIFA. So this is their first time in the World Cup, and they just got sent home after losing to Argentina in the round of 32. An Argentina team that includes Messi, one of the favorites to win the World Cup. And I remember before this match, I had predicted that it would have been a tie and it would go to a penalty shootout in which Argentina would have won. That's not what happened, but I remember even my friends, they were laughing at me about the possibility of Cabo Verde doing well or being able to stand up to Argentina. And I admitted to them that, I know you guys are more seasoned in watching football and I'm much more naive, as I really kind of only participate in World Cup and Euros. As I said to them, I said, guys, I just have this funny feeling that the Cabo Verde team understands that this is their moment. I have a funny feeling that they understand that this match, win or lose, will be the most important match they have ever played. While after their Spain draw, that was like a really good showing, they played another match. I don't remember, I think it may have been Morocco or Saudi Arabia, I don't remember. But it didn't go so well. I was like, guys, I think making it this far and getting to play Argentina, I just have a feeling that those guys sat down and said, hey, this is our moment. Like, we need to go out there and play the best 90 minutes of football we have ever played in life. And they were only defeated by a singular point at the 111th minute. So they were drawn up until full time at 90, and then they had to do an additional 30 minutes. And it is in the last 20 minutes before the end of the match, Argentina scored the point that would have defeated them. Cabo Verde, this small set of islands, and mind you, 500,000 people is less than the entire population of Jamaica, were able to stand up to Argentina. The whole point I'm making about that is I feel like they understood that it was their moment. And that's actually what I want to talk about today. As creatives, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as just individuals here trying to make an impact in the world, it's so important and underrated being able to recognize when you have a moment and capitalize on it. So a moment is these short windows in life in which you realize that you have a chance, like you have a chance at really moving the needle, really turning something around, really making a significant impact, or just really advancing on something. It requires a level of discernment. Like it really requires the ability to recognize. You know, you'll have these moments where like you stop and you're like, wait, this is a moment, you know, like something is happening here, you know. I need to lock in. I need to take advantage of it. And the key thing is acting on it. That's like the key thing. And something people don't understand is that these moments aren't all huge. They don't have to be huge. But the thing is that they're important. There's something important that can be extracted out of this moment. I'll give you a personal example for myself. So my example is becoming Protoje's creative director. So when Protoje originally hired me, he didn't hire me as his creative director. I was really just hired as an editor because he just had a bunch of footage that he just needed sorting out. And I was able to edit it for him. So I was working with him for some time and he discovered, oh, this guy can do photography. Oh, this guy can also shoot video. So I got the opportunity to do other things. At the time, his then creative director, or after some time, his then creative director at the time was going to part ways with him. At this time, I was probably working with him for maybe a year or more. And it was at this time I was observing the previous creative director. And I was saying, I think I can do everything that he's doing. Not that I'm better than him or anything like that. It's just the role that he played. I was like, I definitely feel like I can take lead on creative with this brand and work with Protoje. And so when he left, I wasn't offered that position, and I don't think Protoje had like an intention of filling that position. But I said, yo, bro, I'd really like to be a creative director, you know. I really feel like I understand your brand well enough. I understand the mediums that you want to communicate through, as well as I think I understand you as a person and as an artist and what you're trying to achieve. And I think I have all of the necessary pieces together to, you know, really work on this thing with you. He seemed skeptic at first. And then he said, you know what, let me give it some thought. And he gave it some thought and he came back and he said, you know what, let's do it. You can be my creative director. And no one really told me to ask for that position, but it was really, as I said, knowing a moment. I knew this was a moment. There was a space that became empty, and I was confident in myself in being able to do it, as well as the amount of preparedness that I had. I was like, yo, I'm just going to ask for this, you know, and the worst thing that could happen is I was be told no, and that's not what happened. So some examples for you, what it could look like for other people or yourself is, applying for a grant, introducing yourself to someone you may never ever have the chance to meet. You might be in a room or in a function and there's somebody there who you really admire and you're like, wow, I really would love to introduce myself to this person. And it's difficult because sometimes are really not the time, and sometimes you will be in that position and it's just not an appropriate time to do it. But that's where discernment comes in, and just knowing, all right, I may never have this chance again. I really have to get over whatever social anxiety I have, and I need to say something to this person. Another one is realizing a talent you may have that you've overlooked, like maybe you've been cooking for family members and friends for all of these years, and they've been like, yo, your cooking is so good, but you've never really realized that, wow, I'm really talented at cooking. I can really do something with this, or I can really make a difference with this talent or skill. Obvious one is a new business idea. Can piggyback from that last example. You realize you have a talent, and after honing your talent, you say, you know what, I'm going to start a business. And the last example I have for you is capitalizing on a viral moment, which may feel like the most corny one of them all. But an example I have that I think is really powerful is a lot of people may not remember that how we know Valiant, the musician today, is from a viral moment on social media. Valiant had this video online where he was being filmed and he said something really funny. Catch a hat a lie. And it was just a joke. No one really knew him as Valiant. They didn't even call him Valiant in the video. And for everybody, it was just a joke. The Catch a hat a lie guy, Father Dippo. He had a viral moment that had nothing to do with his talent or his music. But, and he even said this himself, he realized that this was a chance to take all of these eyes that were on him and not let this moment end in just being a comedic joke, but allow people to realize that, hey, this guy had a really talented music. And quickly after the virality of that video, he dropped a song. And after that song, he dropped another song. And I think it's very easy to say that now, a couple years removed, people don't even remember that we discovered Valiant from a viral, laughable moment, and he is one of Jamaica's top young artists right now with a very respectable catalog of hits. Being able to realize that you have a moment, it is a skill, and some people are born with that skill as a talent, but like any skill, you can definitely develop it. And how you develop it? Obviously with practice. It is primarily an observational skill. So you are practicing to observe moments. It's almost like cultivating a sense. It's almost like a muscle. But when you observe situations around you enough times, you will start to innately realize the similar moments where you say, hold on, something is happening here. I need to lock in. One blocker I think that people generally have is that they think that these moments have to be glamorous, like it's big moments. Like they think a moment, it's big, glamorous, obvious, and shiny, where I would say that's not always the case. As you see with Cabo Verde, they are the most talked about thing after that match, and they lost. They lost. They have made way more impressions post-match, pre and post-match, and they didn't win, which shows you that you don't always have to win the moment, or our moment doesn't necessarily always require you to win, because the moment for them was the story It's a story of overcoming and just how much effort they put out into the game against the giant, the obvious winners, Argentina, and they are the underdog. They knew it was that moment where they need to give it their all, win or lose, and people saw them for it. So now they have a different respect because they, as a small nation and team, were able to stand up to a stalwart team, including arguably one of the best football players ever. The same thing with Valiant. A lot of people wouldn't understand that a moment like that, it could have easily ended with him just being a joke. But he was determined to take the situation and extract the value out of it that allowed him to be the artist he is today. We need to be able to open our minds to the fact that moments are not always big and shiny, but there are moments nonetheless. Because, these moments are sometimes, they're just catalysts for something greater. I love this quote by Seneca where he says, I'm always saying it to my people and my friend, and my dad says it to me all the time too. Luck is what happens when opportunity meets preparedness. I'll say it again. Luck is when opportunity meets preparedness. We may never know when our moment is, but we can always prepare ourselves to be ready. We can always prepare ourselves to be ready. If you want to make a good impression on somebody you may only have one chance to introduce yourself to, it means that I'm going to work on my social skills. I never know when I'm going to meet Rihanna, but I'm going to make sure that if I'm ever in a room with Rihanna, I am prepared to have that conversation. You develop that business idea. You think about this business idea, you put it together. So if you are at a dinner and you happen to realize that one of the persons in the dinner party is actually a really wealthy investor, you have your business idea studied so routinely, it's so much a part of you. If he says, okay, can I get a business pitch? Can I get a business plan? Can you give me a rough idea of what your business is about? You don't need a week to prepare that. You have it ready because you have been waiting for this moment that, one day I'm going to meet an investor and I know I need to know everything or as much as I can so that I'm ready to receive this opportunity. I'm prepared to receive this opportunity. You practice your craft, same for me. I didn't know I was really practicing, but I got a camera in my hand in high school. I got a legal copy of Photoshop in high school. I had Sony Vegas, the first editing software I had. I was always just practicing. I didn't know that this was going to be the field that I wanted to be in, but I was just like, I just love this so much. And I was just practicing. And even before I asked Protoje about wanting to be his creative director, I was already thinking about all of the stuff that would be so good if we could do this. Like if I was his creative director, we could do this. If I was his creative director, we could do that. When I asked him to be his creative director, I wasn't thinking about, oh, I wonder if I can do this. I had already been like, I know I can do this. Like, I know I can be so good at this just based on what I've seen already. And I had practice in so many different areas, not just photography and being a wicked graphic designer or a wicked editor, but also music business, the soft skills, understanding how creative works with music. Some people just understand things technically. Some people just understand how to do things, but not everybody understands the value or what can be done with those things or why these things need to be done. I was thinking about all of those things just because I have a passion for it. I would be doing it even if it wasn't for Protoje. I'm always just thinking about these things. So that was my luck. An opportunity presented itself that I was already prepared for. And just the same, Cabo Verde realized this is our moment, guys. And they went out there and they played an excellent match. An excellent match. And their profile as a team has raised so much. And if you haven't known, the goalkeeper went into that match with 50,000 followers. After drawing with Spain, he went up to 1.9 million followers. After this match with Argentina, he went up to 20 million followers. And it's not about the followers, but it is about the moment. He's 40. He's nearing the end of his professional career. But he has a moment that is probably going to allow him to extend his career longer than it would have just organically been otherwise. And that is really just being able to capitalize on a moment. Same thing with Valiant. He had his songs ready. He said it. I think it was in the podcast with Wayne Marshall. I think it was the cut. He said, I had these songs ready and I just dropped them one after the other. And I remember it happening in real time of just how quickly he went from being a joke to, wow, this guy has some wicked tunes. And to speak about preparedness, which I think is very important, is you will not always be 100% prepared. And you don't need to be 100% prepared to take action, because there's no such thing as 100% preparedness. You don't know what's going to be happening. You don't know what's going to happen. So you can't be 100% prepared because you don't know what's going to happen. You would have to be clairvoyant to be 100% prepared. There's always a variable that you will never know that will not allow you to reach 100%. So take the idea of being 100% out of your mind. Jeff Bezos does terrible things to the environment, but he said something that really changed how I think about how quickly I take action, is that you only need to be 70% prepared to take action. And there has been so many times in life where I've felt like 90% prepared and I'm still just hesitating and procrastinating because I just want to try and find that last 10%, where no, it's like if I see myself at that point where I'm just like, oh, I just need, that's what tells me that, yo, you actually have enough. When you're like, I just need, and you're nitpicking, that is the sign for me at least to know that, yo, you need to stop this and you need to actually take action. You're ready. And on the note of taking action, a big thing is that we sabotage ourselves too much by convincing ourselves to not act. And I could talk forever about this, but I'm not allowed to. We find so many excuses to not take action. I like to say that, yo, we are supposed to seize the moment. The moment is not to seize us. And that means is that it requires you to take action on the moment. Sometimes we are waiting for the moment to come to us, or the moment to convince us. But it is us who is supposed to make the most of the moment. It is not the moment that is supposed to mold itself around us. And I think so much of us are caught up in thinking that it is a life that is supposed to present these things to us, when it is us that is supposed to go out and try and move things around. Obviously, not everything is in your control. It is our responsibility to seize the moment, because the moment is open, And when I say that, meaning that there are moments that exist, and some people may believe that moments are for you. This moment is going to be for me. I don't believe that. Opportunities, they're there for anyone. And it is not necessarily a competition, but if you do not reach out and grab that opportunity, there's somebody else who wants it more than you, and they will reach out and get the opportunity. I'm sure we've heard stuff like ideas are not ours. So sometimes you'll have an idea and you see somebody else and you say, oh, I had the same idea, la 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 la. Maybe yes, but somebody had that idea and they acted on it. They got that idea and they said, thank you. They said, thank you, and they used it. Whereas some of us get these ideas, we get these moments, and we think that the opportunity is going to stay and wait on us and idle with us. No, we are to seize the moment. The moment is not there to seize us. And action is the most important step. And I love keep using my same examples. Cabo Verde, some of us think that we are only supposed to take action if it's like, okay, it needs to be successful. They didn't win. And I'm having this conversation, all of these conversations that are being had, all of these memes, all of these moments are about the team that lost. They lost. They lost the match, but they won the moment. They won the moment. You have many people that have a moment in their hand and they waste it talking and thinking about action as if that's action itself. Yeah, this is what I thought I can do, or this is what I'm thinking, or haha, yeah, I plan to do that. And I am very much so guilty of this as well. And I keep having to tell myself the perfect thing that Nike has ever said: just do it. Don't bother talk about it. Don't bother have this long conversation about it. Or you did want to, or I thought I could, or I plan to. Obviously, some things are not going to be ready for their time. But if something, the step that is missing is for you to go and do it, shut up and go and do it. Because even if there isn't a win, there's a lesson. And a lot of lessons are things that will prepare you further for the moment or the next moment that comes in the future. The job you didn't get, it will teach you what needs to be on your resume when you apply again. The job you got fired from, it opens up your schedule to really allow you to think about, okay, what do I really want about in life? And that's a mindset thing about how to understand, how to look at things in a way where you're able to maximize or extract the value that is there for you. And a last part of this whole thing that I want to talk about, that it's not like a big point, but I think it's a point that's not spoken about a lot. It's like about your goals and your energy. I think it's very important to have an idea of what success looks like, or better yet, what success feels like. Because I think when you meditate on what success looks like and feels like, and when I say meditate, is really kind of taking time to think about, okay, what do I want out of life, or what do I think success will look like? And don't be alarmed if you don't have a clear, strict idea of what it looks like, because obviously we don't want to put ourselves in a box, and we don't know everything that life has to offer for us. And there are some moments or opportunities that will come to us that we didn't even know was possible. So that's why I say feels like it's very important, because what we want to do is like in football. If there is no goal for you to score in, how do you know that you've progressed? So whereas maybe your goal may not be hard defined, I like to say feels like, because when you focus on the feeling, then you will have some moments that will kind of trigger that feeling. Like similar, like it's like when you think about, does this feel like what I've been looking for? Protoje's previous creative director left. It's like, I never envisioned myself being a creative director. But when I was introduced to a creative director and I saw what he was doing, and then that opportunity presented itself, I said, oh no, this feels like what I want to do. This has that feeling. And I'll be honest, I wasn't meditating on my goals like that at that time, but I'm much better at it now. And these things help to guide me in terms of what I want to be doing. So even if it is like meditating on, maybe I want to change my vehicle, or I want to change where I live, or I want to change how I interact with others, I visualize, okay, what does that feel like? What does that look like? And then things will be presented to you, and you say, that doesn't feel like what it's supposed to be. And sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, and sometimes you have to open your mind. But then you'll have those moments where you're like, oh no, this feels like what I was really meditating on the other day. I don't know where this will take me, but I'm really interested in seeing where it goes, because this really feels like what I was thinking about. This feels like what my goal is. And then the last point is that you definitely have to have a small reserve of focus and rest and clarity to really discern these moments. Like, discernment takes energy. I don't think people talk about that enough, because it's very easy to be bogged down in life. And this is like a personal challenge I have. Like, when I am locked in on work, like working on something, like saying, no, I'm working on a series of projects, the bandwidth that allows me to see opportunities, I don't have a lot of it. So I know you may have some people who are working 9 to 5s, and you guys may be really bogged down where like opportunities may easily pass you by because you're so overwhelmed by life. You're not able to have the discernment to see those things. What I would say is that if it is really important for you to change your situation, if it's very important for you right now to change your situation, discernment is extremely important. Discernment and action, those two things. And I think both of those things require rest. And when I say rest, is just in like literally, bro, just sometimes making sure you're getting enough sleep and hydration and nutrition, so that you have the ability to, when your head's down working and someone says, hey bro, I'd love to invite you to this dinner that we're having later at this showroom, and you're working on a project and you almost say no, but you remember that that brand manager for that brand might be there, and I've always wanted the opportunity to have a conversation with this brand manager. I need to go to that event. And then you say yes. You need to have enough bandwidth to recognize those moments. It's very important. Or you will be locked in the hamster wheel doing the same thing over and over, because you don't even have the bandwidth to change your situation. If your situation is not so bad and you're fine with it, and like your biggest thing right now is really just managing your situation, then manage it. But as I say, if you're huge and you need to change your situation, discernment and action. Discernment and action. This is something I need to act on and then actually acting upon it. Just a speed recap, we have to keep paying attention to life to see a moment, to see the moment, whether it's big, medium, or small, glamorous, ordinary. Sometimes it could be failure. Preparing yourself for an opportunity, visualizing your goal, meditating on your goals and making sure you're resting, and most importantly, taking action. And the one thing that wasn't said, so this wouldn't be a recap, is repeating it, because you're gonna have multiple opportunities. Some will work out, some won't, and you have to have the spirit to know, say, you have to keep going. So you have to repeat this. It goes without saying that you have to just keep repeating it. And that is my par with you guys for today, purely inspired by Cabo Verde's performance and just the conversations around it. Yeah, guys, like there are definitely opportunities out there that are awaiting us to reach out and grab them. So that's my time. The last podcast that you would have seen would have been, the drop date was after my Earth Strong, but it was recorded before my Earth Strong. So now me talking to you, I am 1 year older. There are thoughts and feelings that I would love to share with you on the next par or a following par. But I just wanted you guys to know that I'm older and remind me, hey, yo, you did say you want to talk to me about what you was feeling on your Earth Strong. Talk about it. So I'm telling you guys to hold myself accountable. And our next episode will have a wonderful, sizable guest reasoning. So I'm looking forward to that. And thank you guys so much for your support. Reaching out for everybody who's listened to the podcast and see me in real life and tell me how much you love the podcast. I'll always say that is what keeps this podcast going. So thank you so much. Remember to share this with somebody. If you can just hit that like button, if you can just rate us on whatever podcast platform you're listening to, it's greatly appreciated. And continue to bless up yourself.